Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about the 8th house in astrology. Now, in astrology, the 8th house governs sex, death, taxes, transformation, regeneration, others' resources, and also support, and this could be emotional and monetary. Now, first thing to look at is look at the sign that is on the cusp of the 8th house, as this could give characteristics to that house. Now, let's say somebody, in my case, I have Sagittarius on the cusp of the 8th house, and this could be rather fortuitous placement and matters connected with shared resources and support from others. And with me, it has been pretty fortunate for me whenever it seems like I'm in some kind of monetary or financial bind. Others have been able to help extricate, as far as myself from that situation. So I think it's it's accurate with me. Only thing though is the last inheritance that took place, for far as my grandmother had passed away about 4 years ago, and I was left nothing. To keep in mind that the ruler of my 8th house is in my 6th house, and that's Jupiter, and it's in its accidental detriment as far as that position goes. So, and it also has some adverse aspects to it. So you got to factor everything in. Now, another example of somebody was to say have a Gemini on the cusp of the 8th house. This could be somebody that may require mental stimulation in a sexual relationship as well as physical. And this person may like to talk about and have a voluble tongue, so to speak, regarding matters pertaining to sex, death, perhaps even occult, astrological, supernatural subjects. So, and the next thing we'll look at, see if you have any planets that are inhabiting the 8th house, as this could flavor the 8th house. If you have, say, you have Mars in your 8th house in your natal chart, on the negative side, it could indicate perhaps some acrimonious situations with sexual partners, or in some isolated cases, it could indicate somebody that might die in perhaps a violent or volatile manner. But on the positive side, it could show somebody that puts a lot of aggressive energy into an action, into matters connected. We could say maybe matters even with astrology, maybe occult subjects, supernatural subjects, transformation, regeneration, things that are connected with their taxes, and things that are just related to the 8th house in general, even, of course, sex, obviously. So it is important to look at the planets that may inhabit this house. If somebody were to say have Uranus in their natal 8th house, this could indicate somebody that might have perhaps may be attracted to unusual, eccentric sexual partners, and it could also indicate somebody that might experience perhaps some losses as far as like even in death, and it might be very unpredictable and very unanticipated, and there might those are some things to consider as far as planets that inhabit the 8th house. It's also important to look and see where the planetary ruler of the 8th house is located. And now in my case, I have the ruler of my 8th house posited in my 6th house. Now this could indicate that I may bring, say, astrology, occult, supernatural subjects into my work life. And when I worked in places over the course of my life, it seems like I would be talking with employees almost no matter where I went regarding the subject of astrology, and I think this may have had something to do with it. And it could also indicate in some cases that perhaps maybe a person's death may impact a person's health, or it could show that maybe that their sexual life may play a role in this person's health, and may also be incorporated into the person's daily routine, perhaps more so than the average person. So another thing to look at, I thought was interesting. I looked at the Bruce, now Catelyn Jenner, has the ruler of her 8th house in her 12th house. And this could indicate that maybe the 12th house is that house of seclusion and hidden matters, and maybe that's part of the reason why this transformation, or what Catelyn Jenner did, was so secretive about for some time. It was very private and suppressed, maybe this from a lot of people, and I think that really had something to do with it. It was interesting that Catelyn's eighth house ruler, it's not only posited in the 12th house, but it's also conjunct her natal Neptune. So there may have been some confusion and maybe some ambivalence at some point regarding the gender that this person wanted. So, and maybe this was a little bit nebulous and hazy in this person's mind at some point. So. And another thing to look at, of course, are progressions and transits. And if you have progressions and transits that are hitting your 8th house, that are in your 8th house, this will obviously indicate more activity associated with the 8th house than otherwise indicated in your natal chart. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the 8th house in astrology. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about having Aries on the 8th house cusp in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.